luxury cruise ship runs into bad weather that turns worse than expected. Buffeted by rain and high winds, the ship's captain alters the route to outrun the storm. Passengers bond together in the common room, drinking and enjoying good company, keeping their spirits up. Two former university colleagues meet for the first time in years. The quirky Vincent charms everyone, except his former college friend, the one who knows him best. Vincent insists they all join him in his suite for an impromptu party to wait out the bad weather. It's a cruise for the very wealthy, and Vincent has expensive taste. Vincent shares his collection of rare antique knives. Knives which are regarded as weapons and have no place on a luxury cruise. And as the ship is surrounded by the storm, 5 people get swallowed up by the fog, and only 4 make it out alive. A luxury cruise for the exceptionally rich disembarks for a 3-week adventure. Each passenger feels deserving of their trip, including William, whose recent career victory is only topped by the best personal news possible. William meets Helena at university. Both California natives. Their marriage is highly successful. William is an architect, and together, he and his wife run their own architectural practice. After years of trying naturally, the couple gets pregnant via IVF treatments. They're excited for a new chapter in their lives together. The couple decides to celebrate their many victories with the ultimate in relaxation, a luxury cruise. A child will soon change their lives forever. This will be their last trip together as a couple. Little can they imagine, it will be their last trip together, ever. Early in the cruise, the couple are awakened by shouting from the next stateroom. Unable to drown out the noise, Helena and William get dressed to go investigate. When the couple tries to assist, they are told by their neighbor Madeline that they merely heard a nightmare and to mind their own business. The following evening, the couple is at leisure to pick baby names, but clouds move across the sky. Bad weather is on the way. William and Helena insist on helping a woman who is clearly seasick. It's in this way that William and Helena once again meet their neighbor Madeline and her maid Eduarda. Though the encounter doesn't last long. Madeline hurries Eduarda away when Eduarda insists she's already feeling better. This seems suspicious to both Helena and William. Then, Madeline's son, Vincent, arrives on deck. He's a distinct presence and noticed by all. Vincent giggles frequently and has a distinct beard. Another passenger, Teddy, is seated nearby. Vincent's excited to run into Teddy. They both went to an elite university together. Rain starts to fall. Everyone is driven indoors. the storm begins.
William and Helena are very concerned over the behavior towards this maid. They're starting to wonder if maybe she's being abused, maybe she's being mistreated. She could even be here against her will. In a lot of cases, people are kidnapped and forced to do these jobs. So they want to investigate. They're not going to let this drop.
Later, everyone gathers for dinner, which will provide another opportunity for the lives of these people to intersect. William and Helena find themselves seated close to Madeline and her maid Eduarda, whose safety they're still concerned about. When Madeline leaves the table for a moment, Helena decides she should check to make sure everything's okay. But Eduarda is unwilling to voice any complaint, saying she's fine and the situation isn't what it seems to be. Still suspicious, Helena decides to take her word and heads back to her table before Madeline returns. Helena notices Madeline removing Eduarda from the table, and she decides to save her suspicions for later. Meanwhile, a young couple on board the ship draws the attention of the room as they celebrate their engagement. This is the couple from earlier on the deck. Helena and William strike up a conversation with the excited couple. Teddy is a freshman lawyer, and his fiancée, Susie, co-owns a distillery. Teddy has just passed the bar. Helena and William mention what they've observed about Eduarda's situation, and they discover their mutual sympathies. They all decide to dine together that evening.
When people travel on cruise ships, they encounter other passengers with different backgrounds from all different walks of life. And sometimes you even encounter people who are employees of other passengers in a domestic servant type of role. And in this particular case, we have a group of passengers who have overheard one of these employees talking, and they have some concerns. So they decide that they're going to pay attention to the way this employee interacts with their employer.
Soon after Madeline and Eduarda leave, Madeline's son Vincent again makes an appearance and seats himself at their table. He explains to the group that he's an old friend of Teddy's. Teddy appears to be the only one immune to Vincent's charm. The group seems to be getting along well, despite Teddy's reservations. Then, Madeline and Eduarda return, looking for Vincent. Vincent introduces his mother, Madeline, and her maid. Madeline is not anxious to join the party and quickly leaves. Vincent insists the two couples come to his room. They can wait out the storm together by playing card games. Vincent also announces he needs to show them all something very important. Everyone is intrigued. Teddy is somewhat reluctant, but gets pulled along.
Meeting strangers is one of the best things about going on a cruise. You get to meet all these interesting people. That's why lots of people like to go on cruises. But in this case, it sets off a deadly chain of events that couldn't have been foreseen.
Vincent was pretty persuasive in his own way. You never really knew what he was about to do, so I think people were kind of afraid of saying no to him, like they were afraid of how he'd react.
Vincent suggests a friendly game of low-stakes poker. The ship is now surrounded in thick fog. The new friends are grateful to be cozy inside and in cheerful company. And although Teddy is still uncomfortable about socializing with his old schoolmate, when the champagne arrives, even he mellows.
Vincent, Teddy, and I knew each other from school, and we tended to keep our distance from Vincent. His giggling was just too unsettling. I mean, a lot of things about him were pretty unsettling. He was different. I mean, way different than anyone I knew. He had just a strange way about him. He would laugh hysterically, like he was possessed sometimes.
There is a knife collection on board the cruise that shouldn't be there. And someone is about to use one of those knives. A long-handled and deadly sharp antique. And for both couples on board the ship, this cruise takes an unsettling and terrifying turn. Out on the deck, the new friends find death is waiting in the fog. A random conversation with a young couple sparks a new friendship. Through Teddy, they meet Madeline's eccentric son, Vincent. A storm drives them all together. But soon, new friendships will sour. And a night of fun and games erupts into pure chaos. Inside Vincent's stateroom, the two couples, along with the eccentric Vincent, play a few hands of low-stakes poker. It is a harmonious evening. And with the storm keeping everyone inside, Susie tries to get to know Vincent. Susie tells Vincent that she and Teddy are newly engaged. She wants to know all about Vincent and Teddy's history, but Teddy's hesitant about having this conversation, while Vincent is delighted to play along. The two men met at university, and although Teddy isn't keen on discussing their school days, Vincent can't be stopped. Vincent and Teddy both attend a prestigious Ivy League college. He and Teddy are enrolled in the same Latin class. Vincent pursues medieval studies, but his working knowledge of Latin is poor. His ability to grasp the subject is limited. Vincent is often frustrated.
Vincent wasn't a particularly strong student. I think it was his family's money that got him through school, to be honest.
In fact, Vincent describes being teased by all of his colleagues at school, including Teddy. This seems to contradict his excitement over seeing Teddy.
Vincent was teased a lot in class because he was a little different. I think even Teddy teased him a little bit. I mean, it was all in good fun, but our whole group of friends, we just couldn't help it.
Suddenly, Vincent's mother, Madeline, enters with Eduarda, her maid. Both are surprised to see Vincent has guests in their cabin.
Vincent had a really domineering mom. I never really felt I could speak up. It must have been really hard for Vincent growing up.
Madeline has come with the latest report. The ship has not yet outrun the storm. She's concerned and unhappy about being rerouted. But the conversation veers drastically off course when Madeline's maid is offered a drink. Madeline's temper flares out of proportion to the act. She becomes aggressive to Eduarda, who reacts by tidying up the room. The rest of the group is shocked by Madeline's reaction to the innocent drink. Teddy expresses concern for Eduarda's situation, but Vincent convincingly speaks on his mother's behalf.
Vincent was a very good talker. He was very good at calming everyone down, assuring them that he would take care of it, that he would talk to his mother, that the ill treatment of the maid would be resolved. That mitigated everybody's heated emotions, at least at that point.
Vincent announces it's time for his surprise. He wants to show his guests something very interesting and important. Vincent produces a piece of luggage and presents his vintage knife collection that he brought on board.
There's a certain level of security that we all would expect when you're going on a cruise. Part of their screening of passengers when they board a cruise ship is to ensure that they're not bringing weapons on board for the safety of both the passengers and the crew. It's unusual that someone would bring an entire collection of knives on board a cruise ship.
Vincent is an avid collector of knives, especially antique knives, so he has this collection he's quite proud of. The strange thing is, though, how did he manage to get that on board?
The way these types of items get onto a ship, it varies, especially when you're dealing with somebody that maybe has greater means than someone else. It's possible someone was paid off to ignore these items. That would be really the only way that this could get onto the ship.
From what I heard, it was quite the collection of knives. His mom could get him whatever he wanted. Decorative, deadly. From a collector's standpoint, it was a great collection. But to be on a cruise ship, from the perspective of a passenger, that's the last thing I want.
For a time, Vincent's obsession with knives doesn't seem so strange. Carrying a knife sometimes can make your life easier. It can just be a matter of utility. As much as you can consider a knife as a tool, it's also a weapon. And when you're carrying a weapon around all the time, there's a greater chance that someone's going to use that weapon in a bad way. In this case, something went horribly wrong.
When somebody produces a weapon, such as a knife, it can create great concern amongst passengers. If somebody was to see that and not know why it's there, the initial reaction would be fear and to get away from the person that is brandishing this particular weapon.
The friends decide to leave Vincent's room, and they hear a strange sound behind them. It's Vincent. He's holding one of his prized antiques, a flashy, long-bladed knife. The charming, quirky companion who was with them all evening is gone. Vincent's face is different, and he doesn't appear to hear their voices anymore. The change is terrifying. In a moment of blind panic, the friends run. A blade is thrust in the fog over and over again. No one can see what's going on, where to go, or run. The group scatters. The group is unable to protect themselves from an assailant who is cloaked by the storm. Blood is spilled on the deck.
The weather in this case was an unwitting participant in this crime because it really made it harder to escape for the victim. It concealed the crime itself. Because of the fog, no one can see what's going on and no one knows where to run.
Physically unharmed but in emotional distress, Susie is the first person in the group to alert the crew to the chaos unfolding. The captain and first officer carry the bleeding William in from out of the fog. And Susie finds Teddy stumbling into the dining room, helping him to get to his feet. It's William's wife who is holding the bloodied hunting knife. Helena appears to have stabbed both men, but is also in a state of shock. The ship's dining room is a scene of pandemonium. Helena looks like the perpetrator, but Vincent is the only one from their party who's missing. As authorities rush to tend to William's injuries, a thorough investigation commences. two couples meet randomly on a luxury cruise. Then, a fifth person, Vincent, joins the group. He has a knife obsession, and his mother, Madeline, has a violent temper. After an unsettling introduction to the knives, everyone scatters through the foggy decks and corridors, pursued by Vincent. In the end, blood is spilled, and no one's sure who stabbed William. Helena, the wife of the man in critical condition, looks like the prime suspect. She's holding the bloodied assault weapon.
William sustains 2 stab wounds, one in the shoulder and one in the stomach. Being stabbed in the stomach is one of the most painful places you can be stabbed. There's a lot of unprotected organs, a lot of internal bleeding usually, and quite often it takes people a long time to die when they've been stabbed in the stomach.
The ship's doctor works frantically to stabilize William, who is unconscious and bleeding profusely. Teddy as well is bleeding from a laceration to his arm and is weak from blood loss. As soon as the scene is controlled, the captain speaks to Helena. It's imperative the ship's authorities quickly determine whether there's an active threat to the other passengers on board.
As an investigator, when you're presented with somebody holding what turns out to be a murder weapon and they've got blood on their hands, your initial reaction is, well, this person is responsible for the murder. But you're not necessarily doing a complete investigation. You need to be open to the fact that she has a story as to how she came to be in possession of this knife. As an investigator, you need to look into the validity of that story. Is it possible what she's saying is true? What reason would she have had to stab this person? What connection does she have to this knife? She did present it to the captain as having found this knife, which is something unusual. It's not something that a murder suspect would necessarily do.
Insisting they need to know why Helena was holding the knife, the ship authorities question her. Despite her shock, Helena attempts to explain. Helena describes being driven out onto the deck by Vincent, who is pursuing them with a knife. She hears a scream, and then something lands at her feet. She instinctively picks up the object and finds she is holding a bloodied antique knife. Helena tells the ship authorities that she is sure Vincent stabbed her husband. He was carrying the very knife she picked up when he began following them in the hallway, and now Vincent is somewhere on the loose, and he has a lot more knives at his disposal. Like Helena, Teddy doesn't see exactly what transpired in the moments of stabbing, but he knows Vincent from his university days and how volatile he is. He describes the scene on the deck. When Teddy hears what he thinks to be William cry out, although he can't see him, he moves and reaches out toward the cry, and Teddy is instantly stabbed in the arm. Susie corroborates what the ship authorities have heard from the others. The fog was so thick she didn't see anything on deck, but she has another take on the events. Susie tells the ship authorities they all suspect Madeline of abusing her maid Eduarda. She wonders what Madeline and her son might do to stop a complaint from coming forward.
If word was to get out that there was perhaps a passenger on board looking to cause harm to people randomly, that could create a huge amount of panic. It's worthwhile to make sure that you know what you're talking about before you start sounding alarms and making this sort of information public. It's prudent for the captain in this particular case to make some inquiries first before letting people know that they should be aware.
And the move pays off. Vincent is found back in his room, admiring his knives and laughing. He's drenched in blood. Vincent calmly complies with their request to put down the knives and accompanies the captain and first officer for questioning.
I think the type of person who intentionally causes fear in other people is somebody you need to be concerned about. How far are they willing to go to elicit that response from the people around them? And the fact that he collects these dangerous weapons is concerning. especially when he uses them as weapons. They're not just something to look at for him, they have a purpose.
The crew asks Vincent his name. Vincent giggles and refuses to answer. They ask again. Again, Vincent refuses to identify himself. They explain that they'll easily be able to ascertain his identity, and Vincent should give his full cooperation to the investigation. At this point, Vincent tells the crew that he will not cooperate, and that, quote, "My mother and I can do what we like."
When Vincent is confronted, this is when his sense of entitlement comes out. Me and my mother can do what we like. This is when you start to see his sense of privilege as a person with money. They put Vincent in restraints and they go to look for Madeline because now they can tell that Madeline was involved somehow. So perhaps William and Helena's suspicions that something was being done to the maid weren't so crazy after all.
Madeline is asked to come and identify her son, who has been involved in a stabbing and who refuses to identify himself. Madeline launches into a tirade against the ship's authorities for victimizing her son because of his peculiarities. His giggle and his limp have always made him a target. Madeline is astonished to be asked to provide an alibi for the time of the attack, but she guarantees that her maid Eduarda will prove she could not have been involved in any assault. But Eduarda is silent.
Maybe it's not too surprising that the maid is unwilling to give them any information about where to find Madeline. This is a woman that could have been abused. She could be afraid. So just because she won't say anything doesn't necessarily mean she's colluding with them or agrees with what they're doing. It's most likely fear of what the consequences would be.
The news comes in. William has succumbed to his wounds. The stabbing has been fatal. Now they're looking for a murderer. As their ship reroutes to avoid a storm, new and old friends end up in Vincent's room for a card party, and he has something important to show them.
It's very strange that he was able to get this on board. It's possible someone was paid off to ignore these items. That would be really the only way that this could get onto the ship.
But the get-together erupts in arguments. On the deck, in the fog, there are multiple stabbings, with one dead. But in the thick fog, no one sees who the perpetrator is, or if there is more than one person who wants to kill. After a pause, Eduarda provides an alibi for her employer, Madeline. But the captain's suspicions are aroused by a welt on Eduarda's face. He's heard the rumors of abuse. Both women are accompanied to a holding room. Madeline must confirm Vincent's her son and will soon have to answer questions of her own. Now that all the suspects have been confined, the ship authorities speak to Teddy, a former university classmate of Vincent's. They want to know if Vincent is capable of perpetrating a knife attack and if his mother could be involved. The first time Teddy had ever met Madeline was on this trip. He knows the most about Vincent. They were in close proximity for 2 years during university. Teddy remembers that Vincent was not good at handling his emotions back in university. He says they all struggled with their course load back at school. No one judged Vincent for not being a strong student, and no one disliked him for his eccentricities. Teddy's version of their school days addresses Vincent's tendency to rage. When Vincent got stressed out, he would lose his temper. And there's one incident in particular involving a knife that Teddy remembers well. Teddy describes how Vincent would inevitably carry a knife, or even several, and always find a dramatic way to unveil it. Everyone at their university found it unnerving.
Vincent used to have a thing for revealing knives in the most dramatic way possible. This was a long time ago, so it's normal that we grow up a little bit as we get older, we change. So Teddy thinks that even though Vincent used to do things like this, he's probably grown past it now.
Teddy remembers one more thing, minor but perhaps important.
Teddy does recall an incident where Vincent reacted quite violently. He stabbed a book in front of a whole bunch of people for no apparent reason. This does speak to some sociopathic or perhaps even psychopathic behavior.
After he stabs the book, Vincent pulls out a Mickey of vodka to share with his friends to make up for his behavior. The group starts to relax and be normal young people again. But Vincent is compulsive. He must always refer to his knives. Soon he draws the attention back. As strange as Vincent's obsession is, the knives are impressive and appealing in their craftsmanship.
Vincent was very particular about how people behaved with his knife collection. As Teddy recalls, if you asked for permission before handling any of his knives, he was quite happy to let you. He was very proud of his collection. But if you just reached out and took one without asking, you were bound to get cut, and that's exactly what Teddy remembered happening to someone.
Teddy is certain that the cut wasn't a mistake. Teddy explains that when he meets him on board, he's reluctant to engage with Vincent again because back in university, Vincent was focused on him. Teddy's uncomfortable with Vincent and doesn't want to be friendly. But he takes a gamble, meeting him again on the cruise, that Vincent has gotten over their ancient history. But he's now certain that Vincent is in far worse shape now than he was in university. When Teddy questions how Vincent got the knives on board the ship, Vincent is annoyed. It is William who diffuses a potential situation between the former schoolmates. William's calm words and gesture happen at the key moment. Vincent thanks William profusely. Touched by the gesture, Vincent feels he and William have bonded. He asks William to come to church with him when they reach home. Vincent, it turns out, is a staunch Catholic. William politely refuses the church invitation because he is a Freemason. There's a 300-year-old historical opposition between the two groups. But the most surprising thing is how current the clash is to Vincent.
Timelines are important to investigators when looking into especially violent events. Why are they arguing? Why do they no longer see eye to eye? And is that argument powerful enough to result in a violent attack?
Vincent's temper flares again, this time at William. But just then, a crash from the adjoining room distracts from the religious argument. Helena goes to the door, knocks, and opens it. Inside the room, they see Eduarda, the maid, is on the floor, unconscious. Eduarda comes to after a few minutes. A red welt is swelling across her face. On the floor lies an empty bottle that looks like it could have been used as a weapon. Helena confronts Madeline, who is flustered and denies hitting her maid. Eduarda refuses to speak. Helena tells Madeline she's going to lodge a complaint against her for abuse, with or without Eduarda's consent. The party is over. The acquaintances gather their things to leave, but Vincent is unwilling to have the night end so soon. He tries to convince the party to stay and play some more games. Vincent refuses to move and let them out of the room. Finally, Teddy has to raise his voice, insisting Vincent move out of the way. Vincent lashes out. He shouts, "Burn in hell, Freemason." They finally move past Vincent, but soon after are followed by him. But is Vincent alone? Teddy doesn't know. And from what he's seen of Madeline, she's as violent as Vincent is. Tensions arise at an impromptu get-together in a stranger's stateroom, and one person, the wealthy Vincent, is unwilling to let the party end. Two couples must run for their lives onto the deck in a vicious storm. Two men are stabbed, one fatally. Ship authorities try to piece together what happened and prevent further bloodshed. The thick fog hides, so far, the identity of the assailant or assailants. There are two wealthy suspects, a mother and her very unusual son. Vincent, who was refusing to identify himself, is willing to speak freely after his mother identifies him. In fact, now he appears anxious to be known. He even shares something of his childhood with the ship authorities. Vincent is raised in the Upper East Side of New York. He's the son of a big pharma developer and entrepreneur. He lives amongst the elite. His privilege allows him to do anything he likes, but he never feels like he belongs. His father's work commitments are substantial, and he's never around. Vincent appears greatly affected by the fact that he rarely sees his father.
Vincent's eccentricities are well known amongst the elite set, but they don't see a lot of him. This is because his mother keeps him traveling all the time. They're always going to one beautiful exotic location after another. Does she just want her son to see the world, or is she aware that her son's a ticking time bomb that could go off at any moment, and she's trying to keep him away from people?
Vincent is thrilled to see old schoolmate Teddy again and host new friends in his room. Although he did poorly in university and did not graduate, he loved the autonomy of college and the chance it gave him to be his own man away from his mother. Vincent wanted to be friends with Teddy, whose athleticism, intelligence, and good looks were everything Vincent wished for himself. And although rejected by Teddy, he does make a few friends at college, and he values those moments. But Vincent is hopeful that Teddy might now want to become close friends. He feels that Teddy likes him much better now than in university. Vincent is asked to focus on the party in his room. He tells them his knife collection went over well. Vincent knows from other collectors that his knife collection is excellent. And it is his guests' privilege to see his collection, which is his life's work. But the night turns awry. His mother is accused of abuse by his guests, which Vincent sees as wrong of them. But the worst part of the night occurs when William is incredibly offensive to him. Ship authorities choose this moment to inform Vincent that William has died from his stab wounds. Vincent's response to the death is chilling. Sensing the moment is right, the crew picks up on Vincent's last comment. William offended him. They ask Vincent to explain. In Vincent's version of the night, it is William's admission of being a Freemason that is the most upsetting element. Freemasonry is an offense to him as a faithful Catholic.
Vincent's reactions are very inappropriate to what's going on. His maniacal laughter, it just seems very strange, very chilling actually. But you would think if this was some sort of personality disorder or a mental illness, a family with that much money would have had the means to do something about it to get him the help that he needed.
Vincent calls the crew back for one last piece of information. Vincent knows precisely what happened on deck and why William was stabbed. He didn't do it, and he can prove it. Vincent says he would have told them right away if they'd only asked. Vincent admits that he may have been holding the knife that killed William, but William fell onto him and his knife when the ship lurched in the storm. Vincent reminds authorities the ship was lurching all evening from the bad weather. The incident is nothing more than an unfortunate accident and an act of God, not intentional. When the ship docks in New York, Madeline's family lawyer is waiting, along with federal agents. Upon docking, Vincent is immediately arrested. Just as he's about to be removed by federal agents, Helena approaches. It's the first time she has seen Vincent since the night of the stabbing. She asks him why he killed her husband. The tale of the wealthy, giggling defendant captures the headlines, and the case goes to court amid a flurry of excitement.
It would appear that all the surrounding circumstances with the weather at the time and the movement of the ship, the possibility that William impaled himself on this knife, the jury found that to be reasonable and elevated a certain amount of doubt in whether or not Vincent killed him intentionally.
Shockwaves go through the courtroom when the verdict is read. Not guilty. It's the end no one sees coming. Minutes after the trial, Vincent, with his mother and father, pose for photos in front of the law court building. It's a rare appearance of Vincent's father, and Vincent laughs hysterically.
No charges were placed against Vincent for bringing 60 knives on board. Still, to this day, no one has any idea how he was able to do that, how he was able to smuggle that many weapons on the ship.
As Vincent and his family pass, Helena steps in front of him. She says one single word: why? He's pulled away by his lawyer. As he walks away a free man, he says to Helena over his shoulder, William should not have become a Freemason.
With his family's money, Vincent could have gotten help for his mental health years ago. William's family will always have to live with what Vincent said to Helena and have that horrible image of him laughing in their minds whenever they think of William.
This is a very strange case because the person who brought something aboard that shouldn't have been aboard in the first place, that then ends up causing someone's death, is let free.
We don't want society to put all the onus on an accused person to prove they didn't do something. The onus is on the government or the state to prove that they did do something. In the absence of that proof beyond a reasonable doubt, the justice system is set up in such a way as to allow a person their freedom. Ultimately, Vincent is found not guilty because of that system.